My name is Mark. I'm 41, and I have one of those families. The kind where if you know, you know. We all technically live near each other. My cramped apartment is a 5-minute drive from my mother, Carol's place. My brother, Kevin, is always hanging around, even though he swears he hates this town. My ex-wife, Jessica, still has my last name on her mailbox, a relic from a life I barely recognize. My two sons, Tyler and Ethan, are technically adults, but half the time they still act like they're in middle school. Honestly, I don't even do birthdays anymore. Not since the divorce. But this year, something felt off from the jump. The night before my birthday, my brother Kevin called. It wasn't normal. No, happy birthday, old man. No sarcastic jibe. Just out of nowhere. You're not allergic to cake, right? I paused, bewildered. No, I'm not. Why? He just laughed, a short, hollow sound, and hung up. That was it. Not even a goodbye. I figured he was drunk or trying to act like he still cared, which always made him weird. The next day, I was just nursing my coffee, trying to ignore the creeping sense of dread, when I got a group text. It was from Carol. Come to Aunt Susan's house at 3. Wear something nice. Don't be late. I frowned at my phone. Was I being set up for a surprise party? I mean, my family has issues, but even for us, that's kind of normal, right? Then Tyler, my youngest, texted me privately. Hope you're ready for this, followed by a skull emoji. My stomach lurched. For what? I typed, but he left me on read. Not a good sign. Not a good sign at all. I showed up at Aunt Susan's, and there were way more cars than there should have been, spilling out onto the street. I didn't recognize half the license plates. My old neighbor, who I hadn't talked to in 3 years, was there. Old friends of Carol's, whispering in tight huddles. Even one of Jessica's friends, a woman I was pretty sure blocked me on Facebook after the divorce, stood by the porch, arms crossed, watching me approach. It felt less like a party and more like an intervention, or maybe even a wedding, given the hushed solemnity. I pushed open the door, and the room went dead quiet. For a second, just the sound of my own heart hammering against my ribs. Then, they started clapping. Not happy birthday clapping. It was that slow, sarcastic, mocking clap you see in memes. A chill snaked up my spine. Carol sat in the front row, hands folded in her lap, looking like she was at church. Kevin, inexplicably, was wearing a jacket, a rare sight for him. Jessica had on this pristine white dress, like she was trying to make some kind of perverse point. Even my oldest son, Ethan, stood off to the side, arms crossed, not even bothering to fake a smile. They gestured me to a chair in the middle of the room, almost like I was on display. I wasn't an idiot. I knew something was up. I just sat there waiting to see what the joke was. NGL, my family has always been harsh, but this felt different. This felt orchestrated. Tyler, my youngest, grabbed the microphone. Why was there even a mic? He looked directly at me, his eyes cold and hard. This man didn't raise me, he announced, his voice amplified, echoing through the silent room. He ruined me. He breaks everything he touches. Everyone stared. For a second, I thought he was messing around, a dark, twisted prank. But he wasn't. He was dead serious. He started listing things. Every time I missed his soccer games, he recited, his voice laced with venom. Every time I yelled about the Wi-Fi bill. Every time I forgot to show up to something at school. He dredged up slights and perceived neglects I hadn't thought about in years, twisting them, distorting them into a narrative of absolute failure. Maybe if you'd actually cared about us instead of your problems, he sneered, we wouldn't all be so screwed up. I just sat there, frozen, not even sure how to react. He wasn't entirely wrong about some of the core facts, but he was twisting them into a grotesque caricature, making it sound like I'd never done a single thing for him, for any of them. Then Ethan, my middle son, stepped forward. He connected his phone to the large TV screen that had been silently glowing in the corner. Let's show everyone the blueprint of a broken man, he declared, his voice devoid of emotion. It was a video, a highlight reel, but not the good kind. Old clips flickered across the screen, grainy photos from happier times, transformed into evidence of my shortcomings. Screenshots of texts I'd sent when I was pissed off or exhausted. There was a section where he scrolled through a list of jobs I'd been fired from, like he was reading my stats out loud. He even played an old voicemail of me, my voice thick with exhaustion, apologizing for missing his birthday once, which, yeah, I did miss it, but I was dealing with so much back then. The whole room watched, rapt, like it was a Netflix documentary. Honestly, I didn't even know he still had half that stuff. Then Jessica, my ex, stood up. That white dress, pristine and mocking, literally making her look bridal. She clutched a glass in her trembling hand, but her voice was steady, cutting through the silence like a knife. I wore this, she announced, her voice rising, so you'd remember the day you poisoned my future. She launched into a tirade about how I'd ruined her life, how she was still cleaning up the mess from our marriage, how she couldn't trust anyone because of me. I want everyone to know what it's like, she declared, her eyes blazing, to have your future ripped up by someone who only cares about himself. I could see her hands shaking, but there was a dark satisfaction in her eyes. She was enjoying this. The crowd was eating it up. Some people were even chuckling. Kevin stood, raising his own glass, and his voice boomed with mock solemnity. To the man who was never there, he toasted, looking straight at me. May he stay that way. I heard a couple of people murmur, damn, under their breath. Carol, my mother, just clapped, slow. That fake, supportive clap you give a child who's done something utterly meaningless. I looked at her and she just shrugged, a slight, almost imperceptible movement, as if to say, you brought this on yourself. At that point, I wasn't even mad. I was just done. Then, one by one, they all stood up. My brother, my sons, my ex, even my mother. And they all said in unison, their voices echoing the sentiment, we're done carrying your last name. Some of them looked angry. Some just looked bored, like they were reading off a script. I think even Kevin's wife, who never says a word to me, joined in. I just sat there for a second. I'm not going to lie. A part of me wanted to get up and start yelling, to tell them they were all full of it, that they wouldn't have half the things they did if I hadn't bailed them out so many times, that they were just mad because I'd finally stopped giving in every time they wanted something. But I didn't. I just stood up, looked at each of them, and smiled. It wasn't a real smile. It was more like, you want to play this game? Fine. I can play too. I turned and walked out. Nobody followed. Not even Carol. I heard someone slam the door behind me, echoing like a final pronouncement. I got in my car and just sat there for a minute, scrolling through my texts, watching as the group chat blew up with messages I didn't read. Then I drove home. I blocked every number that came up. I didn't even feel sad, just pissed off. Like, you want to humiliate me? You better be ready for what comes next. So yeah, that was my 41st. First time in a long time, I actually felt like doing something about it. And if they thought that was the end, they really didn't know me at all. I had a plan. They were about to find out just how much I was really holding up. Turns out, when you grow up in a family that treats you like a backup generator, you learn exactly where every wire is. Not that anyone ever thanked me for it, Angel. After that joke of a party, I started noticing the tiniest things. Like Kevin sending me a Venmo request for $40 for pizza and gas the same day he posted about his new sneakers on Instagram. Carol forwarding me a picture of her broken sink with a sad face and a message about how she couldn't afford a plumber right now. Jessica tagging me in an old vacation photo, then immediately texting me about the car insurance bill due in 3 days. It wasn't even subtle anymore. They weren't embarrassed, just expectant. I woke up to a text from Kevin the day after the party. So you going to apologize or what? I just stared at the phone for a second. Wow. Not even a good morning. No one else reached out except Carol, who just sent one of those praying hands emojis. I ignored them all. I started scrolling through my banking app, looking at all the crap I was still paying for. Actually, what was I doing? I wasn't even living with these people. I was just a wallet with a Wi-Fi password. So whatever. That's it. I started making calls. I called the landlord for Carol's place, told her I wasn't paying the rent after the next month. She got quiet, then told me she'd talk to my mother directly. Yeah, I said, my voice flat. Do that. I opened up all my auto pays and started canceling. Jessica's car insurance? Gone after this payment cycle. The boys' tuition loans? I texted them both. You can figure out payment plans with the school now. You're adults. Kevin's little business money? I sent him a note in the group chat. No more transfers. Don't ask. I kept it all on record. No drama, just facts. I told each of them exactly what was ending and when, so no one could pull the I didn't know card. It was all in writing. Funny thing, no one said anything for a day. I think they assumed I was bluffing. I got a couple of passive-aggressive memes from Tyler, something about deadbeat dads, whatever. I'd seen worse. By day 3, though, it was like someone set off a fire alarm. Carol called, didn't even say hi, just launched into, "You can't do this to family." I said, "You made it very clear at the party I'm not your family." She hung up. I heard later from an aunt that Carol was telling everyone I'd lost my mind. I guess not paying her rent is a sign of mental illness now. Jessica showed up at my door. Didn't even knock. Just started yelling through the hallway, saying I was abandoning my responsibilities, that I was humiliating her, that the car would get repossessed, that the boys would have to drop out. "Not my problem anymore," I said, leaning against the door frame, my voice calm. She tried to push past me into the apartment. I blocked her. She slapped my arm. I just stood there, unmoving, watching her. She stormed off, slamming the door so hard the neighbor's dog started barking. I watched her leave, then locked up. I could hear her yelling at someone on the phone in the parking lot. Pretty sure she was calling Kevin. Kevin tried a different approach. He called me at midnight, leaving a voicemail. "I'm just trying to keep the business afloat. You know how things are. Just need a couple more months. I'll pay you back." I didn't answer. He sent me a string of angry texts the next morning, ending with, "Don't ever ask me for anything again." I just muted him. The dude owes me thousands, but whatever. Not chasing him anymore. Tyler, the youngest, went to Carol and told her I'd ruined his future. I got a message from her, caps lock of course, saying, "You're breaking his heart. He's never going to forgive you." I replied, "You all made your feelings clear at the party. You humiliated me in front of everyone. I'm done." She just said, "You're a disappointment." It got a little messy after that. Jessica called the school, tried to get them to let the boys stay on good faith. I got an email from the school's finance office asking if I'd reconsider. I replied, "No." My brother tried to guilt trip mutual friends, but most of them were kind of tired of his act anyway. Carol called my dad's old friend, tried to get him to talk sense into me. I didn't pick up. Um, the group chat started blowing up. Tyler said I was acting like a child. Ethan said he wasn't taking sides, but I should be reasonable. Jessica jumped in, saying I was being abusive, which was wild considering all the stuff she said at that party. My brother went off on everyone, saying I was always the favorite, which is hilarious because I was never even close. I just kept blocking people. I saw Carol at the store one afternoon. She tried to ignore me, then suddenly walked over and started arguing, not even caring who heard. She said I was destroying the family. "You already did that for me," I said, my voice quiet. She slapped my shoulder. I just walked away. Honestly, I thought I'd feel guilty, but I was just tired. They wanted to act like I was never there? Fine. Now they could see what that was actually like. I wasn't paying for anyone's mistakes anymore. If that made me the villain, whatever. The real kicker is, now that the money's drying up, they're all fighting with each other. I get screenshots from my cousin of the family group chat, blaming, accusing. Suddenly, everyone's got receipts. Turns out, when you take away the guy who always fixes things, nobody else steps up. Who knew? So yeah, that's where we're at. I'm not rescuing anybody. I'm not picking up the phone. I'm not playing nice. If they wanted me gone, they can see what gone actually means. Um, Honestly, I thought by now they'd just freeze me out and move on. But it turns out when you kick the wrong pillar out from under a house, the whole thing wobbles. Not that any of them would admit it, even now. Last I mentioned, the group chat changed. It's just gone from everyone piling on me to everyone kind of circling each other, taking turns blaming, poking, trying to get someone else to fix things. And now they're coming for me again. But it's too little, way too late. It started pretty quiet, just the usual petty stuff. Kevin texting me a screenshot of his bank overdraft, like that was magically going to make a deposit appear. Carol's neighbor cornering me at the grocery store. "Your mother's not herself lately," she'd say, lowering her voice conspiratorially. "Maybe you should call her." I'd just say, "She knows my number." I got a string of emails from Ethan about his financial aid, always CCing Jessica, who started signing her messages, "For the boys' sake. Still can't believe she thinks that'll work." But then the real fun started. I got a letter from the property manager for the building where Carol lives. Her lease was up in 60 days, and I'm the one who's been on the paperwork for years, even though she's the tenant. I never told her, but I put the notice of non-renewal in the mail myself. She texted me, "You're making your own mother homeless." I replied, "You're a grown woman. You'll figure it out." She tried calling. I blocked her. My aunt tried to get in on it. I blocked her too. Kevin started panicking because his business loan, which, let's be real, was me covering his credit card bill, was now being called in by collections. I actually went through the trouble of sending all our texts and payment records to the collection agency. He showed up at my apartment, pounding on the door, yelling, "You're screwing me over on purpose." I stood in the doorway and said, "You did it to yourself." He tried to shove past me. I blocked him. He pushed my chest. I just stared at him, my face blank, and he left, slamming the stairwell door so hard it echoed. Jessica's car got towed right out of her driveway. She called me, losing it, said the boys would never forgive me, said I was a monster. "You made your choice at that party," I reminded her, my voice calm. She tried to threaten me with some kind of legal thing, but the car was in my name and I'd canceled the insurance, so that was that. She tried to slap me when she caught me in the parking lot at the grocery store, but I stepped back and she just yelled at me instead. People were watching. Nobody said anything. The thing is, they're all smart in their own way. They know how to guilt trip, how to make things look like my fault. But now that everything's actually breaking, they're just desperate. Tyler called me from some unknown number, didn't even bother with small talk. Just went straight into, "You ruined my life. You never cared about us. I hope you're happy." I said, "You'll get over it." He hung up. I got a voicemail from Carol. She was crying, then she was angry, then she was just quiet. Said she couldn't believe her own son would do this. Said she should have never let me back into her life after Dad left. I listened to the whole thing, then deleted it. My phone started blowing up. Group chat, missed calls, voicemails, even Facebook messages from random family I haven't seen in years. Everyone's got an opinion. Nobody's got an actual solution. It's wild how fast it all falls apart. Ethan dropped out for a semester, texted me, "Thanks for nothing, Dad. Hope you're proud." I didn't answer. Jessica's new boyfriend tried to get in my face at the gas station, told me I was a deadbeat. I said, "You can pay her bills if you want," then walked away. Kevin posted on Twitter about how betrayal always comes from the ones closest to you. Carol went back to tagging me in old family photos with passive-aggressive captions. I just blocked them all, one after another. The biggest surprise to them, I think, is that I actually followed through. Like, they did that whole public spectacle, thinking I'd just eat it and keep paying for their crap. But I'm not their villain anymore. I'm just not their anything. And now they're scrambling, begging, threatening, whatever. I even got a handwritten letter from Carol. Seriously, when's the last time anyone used a stamp? It just said, "Please just talk to us. Please, please, just talk to us." I'm not going to lie. Part of me thought I'd feel guilty. But I just feel free. I don't owe them anything. Not after that. They wanted to make me the bad guy? Fine. I'll be the bad guy who doesn't pay their bills, who doesn't pick up the phone, who doesn't show up just to get slapped or screamed at. I see them in public sometimes, and it's just nods or dirty looks now. Nobody tries to talk. Maybe they'll figure it out. Maybe they won't. I don't know. All I know is I'm not carrying any more weight that isn't mine. They can keep the last name or drop it. Doesn't matter to me. I've got my own life to live, finally. So yeah, that's the end of it. No happy ending, no dramatic apology, no family reunion, just a bunch of voicemails I'm never going to answer.